Welcome back to Your Hobby Connection. Today on the doubleheader, we're seeing the SP-18 and the 493 coming into Silverton. This doubleheader has 15 cars on its train today. That means in Silverton, some switch maneuvers are going to have to be done in order to get this train turned around. Why is that, you ask? Because the train is literally as long as the Y tail is. So they can only turn 15 cars and one engine around. So stay tuned to the turning of the train. Now, as you guys will notice, the 493 is the first one to back up towards the Y, and this confused the heck out of me initially as well when I was filming this. One of the things that we learned later on, after the whole procedure was completed, was they cut the 18 off the train and the 493, and they sent the 493 back, and they started the Y-ing process of the 493. So, let's see what they do from here with the 493. You may not have noticed it, but the rear brakeman riding on the tender of the 493 was using hand signals to communicate with the train crew, and the engineer responded with 2 short whistles to acknowledge the signal that he was given. That's one of the better things about the Durango and Silverton Railroad, is that they use hand and whistle signals, where a lot of other railroads use radio communication only. You can see the train crew member walking up towards the front of the locomotive, where he's going to throw the switch and put the locomotive on the other leg of the Y. As the locomotive clears the switch of the Y, you'll notice that the brakeman is throwing that switch back to normal. I didn't catch that because I thought they were just going to send the 493 straight on down towards Durango, not knowing that they were going to use it for something completely different. As you'll notice, I sped up the time frame of this camera. I didn't know at the time when I was filming this that they were going to back the train up when they did and how they did. So I had to pan the camera really quickly to catch them backing the train up onto the leg of the Y. In the background, you hear the dynamo of the 493 going off nice and loud, because she's sitting right behind us, as a matter of fact. Seeing this now makes me understand what they were working at doing, because why else would they have the 493 sitting on one leg of the Y while the SP-18 is pushing the rest of the train back up onto the Y? So as you'll see here in a moment, what they end up doing is they'll cut the 18 off of the front of this train, back the 493 onto the train, do a brake test, and then pull that whole train down and complete the Y-ing process. If you look really closely, you'll notice that the train has backed all the way to the end of the Y, and the 18 has not cleared the switch, which again is why they have to do this double-header maneuver, where they'll have to back the train consist up, cut the train off the cars, and back the other locomotive onto the Y to grab the cars and bring them back up into Silverton. As the 493 and the 18 sit across from each other on the legs of the Y, you can see just how big the 493 is compared to the little 18. I mean, just the tender alone is a much smaller tender than the 493 is. And the boiler size is incredibly much bigger on the 493. All of the air brake testing and rechecking everything has been completed, and the 493 is now going to go ahead and take her train back up into Silverton and complete the Y-ing process. And now they're starting their push back up into Silverton. Now, mind you, the 493 is having to push up a grade in order to get them back into Silverton, where they can begin the reloading process of their passengers. As you'll notice, you have 3 people riding on the back of the train. You've got your rear brakeman, your head brakeman, and your conductor. With this train being so long, they might have to send the head brakeman up to about the middle of the train in order to help pass the signals from the rear brakeman to the engine crew so they know where to stop, because the tracks in town don't have any buffers or any protection to keep them from rolling off the end of the track and onto dirt. Right now, they're lining the track behind them to put them on the scale track. So this way they can let the other train get out of Silverton, heading back towards Durango. So, we return once again to the SP-18, where she's going to finish her Ying process. Once this is completed, she'll begin the journey back down to Durango, where they will service her and get her ready for her doubleheader the very next day. So, here's a bit of a unique fact about this particular Y in Silverton. This is part of the original Y that was made back during the time frame of the 3 Silverton railroads. You had the Silverton Northern, the Silverton, and the Silverton and Gladstone Railroad. This, if I remember correctly, is the Silverton Northern Railroad line. So, beyond this, straight up and to the left, it followed the canyon all the way up towards Red Mountain. It ended up dying in the early 1900s, like 1920s, 1930s, but the railroad was made by a gentleman by the name of Otto Mears. He started the Rio Grande Southern that went from Durango, Colorado, all the way up to Ridgeway. To add to that, he also founded the other 3 Silverton railroads. So, he was a man of his time. He also created the toll roads. One of them went from Silverton all the way down to Ouray, which was later achieved being connected to Silverton, going around all the way the other direction by the Denver and Rio Grande. but the Rio Grande Southern had to connect from Durango to Ridgeway, which then tied in to the DNRG, which allowed a complete round trip from Silverton to Durango through to Ouray. The funny thing is, it was only about 25 or 30 miles from Silverton to Ouray going through the mountain. But there was a part on the last leg of the trip down into Ouray which required either a cogged railway or boring a 7-mile-long tunnel through the mountain in order to get down into Ouray. Which, at the time, the investors were like, heck no, we're not going to spend that kind of money to get that kind of a train running, because there wasn't any money there. So they had to build a 150 miles loop around to get to Ouray. As the SP-18 leaves, you'll notice it has a red flag on the coupler. This is because it's denoting the end of the train, and it doesn't have any kind of marker lights or flag holders to help denote the end of the train. We can see the track car following directly behind the SP-18. And this will conclude this video on the doubleheader series that we've been following for the last few weeks. If you like these videos, please subscribe, share it with your friends and family, and highball on the mainline.